But temporary is a fruit gained by these men of small minds. The worshippers of the gods go to the gods, but my devotees come to me. Whatever form a person adores, the fruits are given to the person from the Supreme Being. Fruit that is temporary has an end that is decided. Whatever you perform penances for, you will get that. It is a very simple and straightforward rule of the world that you will get what you made efforts for. Why are such fruits temporary? Why is it temporary even though God gives it to us? Because God said in the last verse that He gives us these fruits no matter who we perform penances for. How then can the fruit given to us by God be temporary? This is because the eligibility of the taker is like this. God always gives after looking at this eligibility. Shri Krishna said that there are two reasons why such fruit is temporary. The first is the desire of the person is for a temporary object. People ask the gods for happiness, and happiness is temporary. If a person asks for it, then it has to be given. It is temporary. Therefore, the thing that they ask for is temporary. The second is that a person considers the gods as different from the Supreme Being. He creates this sense of difference that this God is different from the Supreme Energy. If one God is different, then another God will be different as well. Such a person creates these differences between the different gods. He thinks that one God is his and another God is someone else's. He creates these differences between these two gods. He therefore performs penances for one God and not the other. When he creates such a difference, then Shri Krishna says that such a person is of small mind. Shri Krishna is very rational and very clear in the Gita. He says that such a person regards the Supreme Being as different, and that is why this person's fruit is temporary. If you get something directly from the imperishable, then you have attained it clearly. However, such objects are temporary because the request for it is temporary, and such a person goes far from the imperishable. There is a reason why such people are of small minds. Who is a person of a small mind? This is a person who does not learn from one experience in life. You can only call a person of intelligent mind if he learns from one experience. In life we have so many desires for so many objects, yet have we learnt anything? Whatever thing we look for happiness in, then when that thing comes into our hands, then we realize that it is sorrow. Yet we ask for further things like that. Shri Krishna says that such a person is of small mind. If a person asks for something once, then he should realize, but he does not realize. When a person gets sorrows, then the reason why he gets sorrow is that instead of learning from this experience, he tries to justify his sorrows and searches for a different reason to his sorrows, and then once again he begins asking for the thing. Human beings know very straightforwardly that the fruit of punya, which is the opposite of sins, is peace and happiness, yet how many people are there to perform punya? People do not perform punya. Human beings also know that the fruit of sins is misery, and yet people keep performing sins over and over again. It is very clear that sins can never lead to success, and whenever sins lead to failure, they give us sorrows along with this. But at that time, the person does not take the fault of the sin for himself. He places the fault on someone else and says that wrong calculations were made for him. He says that it was because the other person changed that the wrong calculations were made and that his calculations were correct. He says that he had already decided everything, but a slight mistake was made and therefore he failed. He says that the other person made this mistake and that is why this happened. Whenever sins lead to failure, human beings do not place the fault with themselves, but with other people. When they put this fault with other people, then this means that the person is once again ready to perform another sin. This is because he says that the reason why he felt it was because of the other person. Now he will be careful so the same thing will not happen again. He becomes ready to commit another sin. The one same mistake is made over and over again in life. Punya, the opposite of sins, never leads to failure, and yet human beings have such high expectations when they perform punya that they do not feel whatever they get as a result of punya, they feel that whatever they get as a result of punya is too little. They think that they're doing a lot and that what they're getting is too little. As a consequence, people lose the motivation to perform punya. That is why they become more attracted to the opposite, which is sins. They think that they're doing so many punya and yet they're getting so little, and then rather than that they should do a little sin so they can get a lot. That is why they leave the path of punya over and over again and become attracted to sins. These are people of small minds. Who is a person of great mind? Who is an intelligent person? This is a person who understands from one experience. Who's heard of Ashoka? Yeah. Those who have studied history will know that Ashoka fought the battle of Kalinga, where he saw the violence that was being done towards human beings. During this one battle, he changed completely. He thought about the consequences of war where thousands of people died. He decided that he did not want to go to battle. He sought refuge in Buddha and accepted Buddha as his guru, spiritual teacher. He then promoted peace throughout his entire life. The kingdom remained with him even though he had peace. He could have kept going into war and accumulating more kingdoms, yet by doing this, he would not have enjoyed what he enjoyed from peace. He enjoyed this peace with bliss, and his life was successful. This is what you call an intelligent person. A person may want the kingdom, and there is no to this, but what kind of kingdom do they want? A person who learns from one experience in life is intelligent. The reason why a person of small mind is a person of small mind is that he gets pleasures, yet he does not understand the temporary and illusory nature of these pleasures. Thinkers say that the reason why a person is of small mind is because when he observes rites for a god, as stated in the last few verses, then he has to observe many rites, and the fruit that comes after observing so many rites is limited and with an end. Shri Krishna says that on the other hand, a person who turns towards him does not have to observe so many rites. When a person comes into contact with the Supreme Truth, then these various rites and rituals do not matter to him so much, and the fruit that the person gets is unlimited and without an end. A saint poet of North India was a very high-level devotee. When one saw the radiance on his face, then one could feel that he had attained the Supreme Truth. Yet, people never saw him observing any rites or rituals, such as turning the Mara prayer beads or worshipping idols. People found it very strange that a devotee of such a high level, who had so much wisdom, who wrote such beautiful spiritual poems, and the radiance from whose face people could tell he had attained the Supreme Truth, could never be seen observing various rites and rituals. People went to him and asked him, why does he not turn the Mara prayer beads? Why does he not perform jap of chanting God's name and observe various other rites and rituals? The saint gave a very beautiful answer. Mala japu na gad japu, jibya na kahu na ram. Sumiran mera hari karhe, ab me payo vishram. Meaning, I do not turn the prayer beads and I do not chant the name of God. I do not say Ram with my tongue. In fact, Hari, God turns prayer beads of me and I only rest. Repeat that again. Mala japu na karu japu, jibya na kahu na ram. Sumiran mera hari kare, ab me payo vishram. I do not turn the prayer beads. I do not chant the name of God. I do not say Ram with my tongue. Hari, God turns prayer beads of me and I only rest. Now he has reached such a state where God remembers him and he only rests. When a person has observed various rites and rituals throughout his births, then he attains this state. If someone just begins saying that without observing any rites or rituals, that God will only remember him by holding out his head because he sent him on this earth, and yet this person not doing anything, this doesn't work. This state described by this saint is of a person who has attained inner rest. Therefore, a person who has this pure relationship with the Supreme Truth has very straightforward rites and rituals, and he is very happy. If I were to say in another meaning, then the various rites and rituals needed to perform in order to attain the object of one's desires is very strict, whereas devotion without desire has no rules for performing rites and rituals. There are two types of devotion. The first is devotion with a desire, where a person has to observe certain rites and can only observe these rites according to what is stated in the rules. The second is devotion without desire, which is pure love. There are no rules in love, for example, that one can only love at a certain time. There is nothing like this. A devotee without desires performs devotion how he likes. There is nothing like this. A devotee without desires performs devotion how he likes. God says that here, that such a person who goes to the gods has gone there with devotion with desire. In devotion with desire, there are a lot of rules and there are a lot of things that have to be done, and yet the fruit that comes is temporary and has an end. Therefore, people who do this are called people of small minds. That's the reason. This person runs his mind so much, works so hard, endures difficulties, and in the end, the fruits he gets is temporary and has an end. On the other hand, a person who performs devotion without desires does not have to follow any rules of devotion, keeps enjoying happiness and bliss while performing true devotion. And all of this while performing true devotion. There is another reason why devotion with desire is for people with small minds. The person who performs devotion with desires does not get the fruits while he performs the devotion, because the fruit comes in the future. On the other hand, devotion without desire is a fruit in itself, because the fruit of devotion without desire is not in the future. When such a devotee sits in front of God, then this devotion is in itself. The work itself is the fruit. The process is the goal, and the journey is the destination. Can there be any more bliss than this? If someone wishes to reach somewhere that is 10 kilometers away and departs, then only if he only completes 8 kilometers, then he'll be sad and he'll know that he has to travel 2 more kilometers tomorrow. But if a person just goes to travel, then he will be happy if he travels 6 kilometers, 8 kilometers, or even if it rains, and therefore he just has to sit there and not travel. This person does not want anything. In devotion without desire, the devotion itself is bliss. The action is the consequence. The bliss of this is enormous. If a person leaves this and runs after desires, then God says that such a person is of small mind. If you find this harsh, then please forgive me, but the majority of people in this world are of small mind that Shri Krishna talks about in this verse. People just turn towards God to attain temporary fruits. God is trying to give them supreme bliss, yet they ask for a mansion instead. This is a person of small mind. Shri Krishna says that the worshippers of the gods go to the gods, but his devotees come to him. Decide yourself whether you want to be united with the king, the supreme truth, or with a servant. If a person gets happy just by knowing the servant, then they will not get the king. Ultimately, the servant does not give anything to us and gets whatever he has from the king only when the king gives an order. One should seek to unite with the supreme truth that is without a name and pure consciousness. Once he becomes united with the supreme truth, then he gets a feeling of completeness and radiating light. Purnavida Purnavidam. With that note, we end this class and verse